Welcome to another Sisters Sagas episode. Today we're gonna actually discuss about how saying less sometimes is necessary. So Maria,
Let's go through the judgment. When you are trying to impress people with words, the more you say, the more common you appear and the less in control. Even if you're saying something banal, it will seem original if you make it vague and open-ended. Powerful people impress and intimidate by saying less. The more you say, the more likely you are to say something foolish. So, Angeliki, what does the history tell us?
so the first example comes from Roman history, where Coriolanus was an important soldier on the side of Rome. He was actually fighting in the battle for many centuries. So he actually, at the end, he ended up having this heroic status of the warrior that never falls. So Roman people and Roman citizens loved him. However, because for his whole life was a soldier, the Roman citizens didn't actually know him personally. So they had this fantastic image of the hero about him.
Back to the mystery that we
Yes,
discussed, right?
Exactly. And suddenly, something happened, Maria.
So he decided to enter politics. Why? Why? Mistake. And then he had to, go and talk to the public. And every time he was doing a speech, he was saying really bad stuff for kind of the common people.
Very insulting.
Exactly, very insulting. And actually, he had some anti-democracy thoughts that he wanted to pass. People were angry. And at the end, he was kind of taken out of Rome and banished.
He was exiled.
Exile.
Perfect. So we have like a fallen hero who had the heroic status, and suddenly he was exiled from his own city. So Maria, having in mind the example of Coriolanus, what are the key takeaways?
The first thing we learn is about the human psychology. How humans work is that they try to explain and understand what the other person thinks. So when you say something, I try to make scenarios of why you did the actions you did based on what you said and what you are planning to do next. So the fewer words you say and the fewer you say overall, then the other person wastes more and more energy trying to understand where you are coming from and what you're planning to do next. So it creates this mystery around you so that people kind of talk about you and try to understand what is your next step.
Also, in all these scenarios, because you're very mysterious, you're not revealing many things, the other person is always on the defensive. So because they feel very uncomfortable with these silences, they will actually talk more, they will reveal more about themselves. So you, on the other hand, you will be able actually to understand them better and get to know them better. And you can actually use this on your own advantage.
So this is a huge sales technique. I used to work in technical sales, so I was going to the customer and we're trying to sell a product. And the first thing we're trying to do is open up the customer so that they tell us what are their challenges, what are their pain points, so that we go and hit their pain points with the solution we were offering. But we always had this challenge: how do you make the customer open up and share? And this, you can do it with very good open-ended questions and then pause. And this pause, this thing that no one speaks in the meeting, it's actually making the other person feel so uncomfortable. You know what you're doing, but the other person feels so uncomfortable that they unmute, especially in an online setting. They unmute, they open their camera so that they see what is happening, and they start giving more details, and then you let them talk.
Because they feel that they are forced to open up and actually answer this open-ended question. However, the question is not very specific, so they change their answers into different directions, and you can take advantage of all that.
Yes, and this is a tactic you can use in any situation where you have a crowd or you want to get information out of people and you pause. You make the question and you pause and you wait. But you have to know to feel uncomfortable with the silence because you'll have to wait. Now, the last point is that in work, like in our day-to-day lives, to be honest, in work, even outside of work, many things happen, right? That can trigger us and charge us emotionally. And we may need to do some uncomfortable conversations at that point. And it is at that point that we may open our mouth and say things that we cannot take back. So at these key moments that you feel that you cannot really handle yourself and you don't know what words will come out of your mouth, the trick is pause, breathe, and let yourself create a plan of attack. Because whatever you're saying, you cannot take it back, and you may hurt people or you may kind of attack people, for example, in a work scenario. And this can create a huge disaster that it's actually so much more than what you were feeling at that point, right? So it's something that really you cannot take back.
Yeah, I think you need to learn to control your words. And because in some cases you are very emotional and it makes sense, I think you need to pause, talk to your friends, relatives, family, and just get back to them after a while. Don't actually rush to answer back because you cannot take back the words that you have said.
And something that may sound funny, but I learned this from this chapter, is when I have uncomfortable conversations with my manager and I'm not liking what I'm hearing, and he, searches information and waits for an answer from me on maybe why I'm not going to get promoted this time, I will say, we shall see.
Very enigmatic, but it works. However, I cannot say to a kid that I shall see. So what do I say is, I don't know yet. I'm gonna ask and I'm gonna get back to you.
Yeah, also to mention that there are some cases where you should actually use more words to explain yourself in answering questions to children, right?
Yeah, you have to be more open.
Or in my case, for example, I'm working with customers. I cannot just give them an answer, not explain where I am coming from, because then this sounds very salesy.
And it's open to misinterpretations as well.
And also, because I have to win trust, right? I need to make people trust me. So I have to explain my way of thinking, why this process would make sense, and why this fits with your situation.